There's one slide that just about every startup CEO screws up, and that's your financial slide. And the sad thing about screwing up this slide is that getting this slide right can get you really close to getting an investment. So it's a blown opportunity when you screw it up. I've raised over $100 million in venture capital and private equity funding in my career. And I've helped startup CEOs like you raise rounds of between $50,000 and $150 million. I've been around a lot of fundraisings and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to fix the mistakes you're likely making in your financial slide so that you can move closer to getting an investment when you're pitching investors. So let's get started. If you're not already a subscriber, then hit that subscribe button right now, and you'll get notified every time I release a new video. Let's start with what investors can learn from a well put together financial slide. There's 7 things that you should have in your financial slide, and I'm going to go over each of those 7 for you right now. And some of these will hopefully be pretty obvious, but maybe some of them won't be. So let's go over each of them and why they're important. So let's start with the first one, which is revenue. Now, hopefully that's pretty self-explanatory, but revenue is obviously super critical to any company. Without revenue, you don't have a company. And investors want to know, and you should want to know too, what's your revenue projection going to be? So that one's super critical, should be in any financial slide. The second one is gross margins. Now, gross margins are important because that's essentially your cost of manufacturing. So I want to know as an investor, if you make something for $1, what does it cost you to make it? Let's say it's 20 cents. So now suddenly your gross margins are $1 minus 20 cents. That's 80 cents on the dollar, which means your gross margins are 80% in the simple example I just showed you. Gross margins are an indication of the health of any company. Now, there is one famous investor out there, and he knows exactly who he is, who will famously say, "I hate high gross margin businesses." Just ignore him. He's an idiot. The third one is profitability. Now, profitability, this is after all of your costs, not just your gross margins, but what are called your below the line costs. 2, that's your SG&A, that's your R&D, all those various things that are involved in building a company and all of your costs. How much profitability, or typically if we're startups, how much loss is there each year in the business? We need to show that as well, because that's going to show us how long that cash lasts. And when do we start turning a profit, hopefully? So that's also really important to show. Now, speaking of cash, the next one is cash. How much cash do we have on hand? Super critical. Cash is how businesses run, especially early stage startups. We need to know what our cash position is in all times. We should always know that number. How much cash do we have? When do we run out of cash? Super important numbers to know, and super important numbers to show investors. That's why that's important. So cash, super duper critical to show investors. Now, there's one more thing related to cash that people want to know about is how much cash are you receiving from investment and how much do you need to get to cash flow positive? Cash flow positive is kind of your freedom point in running a company. Maybe you'll never get there, but it's an important thing for investors to know, and you should want to know it too, because that's going to determine how much investment you need through the life of the company. So knowing that number, how much cash do you need from investment, is super critical too. That's our 5th line item. Okay, now our 6th line item, that's our headcount. How many employees do we have at any given time in the company? So by year, we should be showing I have X number of employees my first year, I have Y number of employees my second year, so forth and so on, because that also gives an idea for you and for your investors of how many people you're going to need. As an investor, you can run some quick, simple numbers to see whether or not everything makes sense, because based on your overhead and everything else, it should give you an idea of how much money you need to run the company, what your burn rate is, essentially. So headcount's also really nice for investors to see. Then last but not least on our list, are maybe 1 or 2 KPIs, key performance indicators, that indicate the health of the business. Maybe it's your user growth. Maybe that's it. Whatever it is for you, you want to put it on there because it also shows people how the business runs. So now with these 7 things, that tells the whole story of your company in numbers and makes it really easy for somebody to understand the numbers view of your company. That's why this is super important. Now, next, I'm going to show exactly why what people do typically doesn't work. Okay, as I said, I'm going to show you exactly why what most people do doesn't work. And there are 2 typical things we see. The first, which I think is just insane, is we don't show any financials, none at all. Early stage startups, maybe raising a seed round or an angel round, are really guilty of this. And yet again, I think this is a blown opportunity because you have a captive group. They're going to want to know these numbers anyways. And there's an argument that people make about why this isn't important. I'll get there in a second. But you know what? It's a blown opportunity. You should know this for yourself. I don't care whether you're early stage or not. You should have a financial plan for your company. Not having one, that doesn't work. Not showing your numbers, I think that's just a huge, huge, huge blown opportunity. Now, the second thing that people do, which I think is a big mistake, is the classic hockey stick. You know the hockey stick slide. You know the one where everything is beautiful, everything's up and to the right, and maybe we show one metric, maybe just revenue or user count or whatever we're showing. And the problem is what about the other 6 things I need to see as an investor? They're not there. That's the problem. It's again, it's a blown opportunity for you. And that's the thing. You have a captive audience. People want to see this information. The idea of sales, and believe me, raising money is the ultimate in sales. The idea in sales is reduce the friction between you and getting the deal. So if I can make it easier for my audience to understand my business by showing them the financials, something they're going to ask for before they agree to invest in my company anyways, why not just show it to them? That's the thing. It's so simple to do. They're right there in front of you. That's why this is such a killer mistake. You don't need to make it. Now, if this content is resonating with you today and you really like it, then hit that like button right now. So what's the solution to this problem? Well, it's really simple. We want a slide that covers all 7 of these points that I talked about. Now let's review them again. There's revenue. There's gross margin. There's your profitability. There's your cash. There's the cash you need to get to cash flow positive. There's your headcount. And finally, there's 1 or 2 KPIs that you can add in that show people how your business runs. Put all those 7 things in one slide in a very simple format and you're home free. So what does that format look like? What's a great example that we can just copy? Because we can plagiarize here. Plagiarism is okay. So we can copy one, and here it is. I'm going to show you the slide from LinkedIn's Series B pitch deck. All you need to do is just pretty much follow this format and you're good to go. Because they have everything in here that we talked about. As you can see, they have a top line of KPIs. That's number 7 on our list. They've got revenue. They have something showing profitability, gross margin, all those things. The cash position, you can see they've got an investment line in there as well. There's a line for headcount. All of it's there. So now as an investor, I can see all the numbers I need to see how this business runs. It's so nice. It's so easy. It's so clear. And I just don't understand why people don't do it. It's a blown opportunity, and don't be lazy here. Do this slide. And I'm going to give you a couple pro tips now on how to make this slide go, because we can make it super easy for ourselves and make it better for our investors too. Now, a couple things we can learn from LinkedIn here. Now, notice what LinkedIn did. They had a historical column in their slide as well. If there's history, and this isn't year zero for you, and there's a year 0 minus 1 or whatever, you want to put that in because that gives a reference point for investors to understand the past, what's going on. And then 5 years of forecast, just like they did, even if you're not in revenue. By the way, LinkedIn wasn't in revenue when they put together this slide. So if LinkedIn can do it, you can do it too. There's no reason not to. So that's not a good enough excuse. Just take your best guess and go with it. But the things I like is that historical column there. They put everything in thousands, which is really nice. And then a couple pro tips for you, because the first one may be counterintuitive for you. It was for me. And that's don't round your numbers. I'd come from the corporate world before I started getting involved in startups. And every time I presented to the CEO in the companies I worked at, always we rounded numbers. But when you're pitching to investors, they don't like that. It doesn't look real when you do that. And you can say, well, yeah, it's a guess. And you're right, it is a guess. But you know what? It doesn't matter. We want to make it look real. So take the numbers exactly as they are from whatever your formulas are to build out your business. Just do it that way and don't round the numbers. But put them in thousands, just like LinkedIn. Nice and easy and simple. Then the second one, and this one is super smart to do. You should have a financial plan. There's no reason not to do this. Anyone can do it. So make it super simple on yourself. Build out your financial plan. There are tools that are available for you if you want to do this, and they're reasonably cheap as well. So there's no excuse not to do this, but have that financial plan. And what I like to do is I'll typically have a tab in my Google Sheet or my Excel spreadsheet, whichever one I'm using, a tab that I can just cut and paste right into my pitch deck. And what I'll do is I'll summarize, just like LinkedIn did, those 7 lines, because typically we all know an income statement, a balance sheet, all of these things are going to be much more complicated than what LinkedIn showed. And they're just showing a summary, which is all you need for a pitch deck. But I can show that, I can cut it, and I can paste it. And as my financials change, because guess what? My financials are going to change just like yours. And I can just cut and paste it, and my financials are up to date in my plan, just like yours are going to be in your pitch deck too. So super easy to do. Super simple to do. If you follow these things, it's going to move you towards an investment, and that's what we want. Now, what did you learn from today's video? I want to know. Put it in the comments column below today's video, what you learned. I'm super interested. I'm also interested in any questions you have about today's video. Also, topics. Anything else you want me to cover, let me know in the comments column below today's video too. That would be super helpful for me. And I've got one more thing for you today. I have a free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides that you need to develop your pitch deck, including the financial slide that we've talked about today. Plus, in the comments column below each slide, I have more details about what should be in each slide. Super easy. All you need to do is click the link below today's video, and it's yours for free. Now, for more great content like today's video, all you have to do is just stick around for a few more seconds, and some links are going to pop up to related content to today's video. Plus, if you want to subscribe, just hit that subscribe button right now, and you can subscribe to my channel and get more great content like this delivered to you as well. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. My name is Brett at brettjfox.com. Have a great day.